Yep. Can you hear me all right?
Item of business is a public hearing on the second public hearing for the fiscal year 2027 budget. The public hearing will be open for 1 minute. If anyone would like to come and approach the microphone and talk to us about the budget for 2027. The meeting will be open for 1 minute. Okay, the public hearing is now ended. We'll go to the regular agenda with a call it to order. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, That brings us to item number 3, agenda approval. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I will move that we approve the agenda.
It's been moved and seconded to approve tonight's agenda. Any discussion?
I'll second it.
I'm sorry, we need a second.
I'll second it.
I'll second. It's moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Director Birdie,
Yes.
Director Castro,
Yes.
Director Ingles,
Yes.
Director Hanson,
Yes.
Director McGivern,
Yes.
Director Witter. Yes. Motion carried. 6.1.0.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to agenda item number 4, recognition, commendations, and information. We'd like to start with, Brian, would you read recognition number 1, please? Because Director of Marketing, we were going to start that. Okay.
So congratulations to the BHS track team. The girls qualified 14 athletes on the Drake relays in 7 minutes. No records have been broken as of yet for the girls. The boys qualified 14 athletes for the Drake relays in 11 events, 6 individual races and 5 relays. The boys have broken 5 school records, the 800, the 2-mile, the distance medley relay, and the 4x1, and also the shuffle hurdle relay. So great job.
Thank you. Director Ingles would take number 2, please.
Congratulations to the Bettendorf High School Drake Relay qualifiers and record breakers. Gage Tucker, JJ McDermott, Caleb Brown, and Kamari Harris broke the Bettendorf High School record for the 4x100 relay with a time of 42.65. Drake qualifiers include AJ Willie, Gage Tucker, JJ McDermott, Andrew Heaton, Kamari Harris. Congratulations.
Thank you. Director McGivern, would you take item number 3, please?
All right. A special shout out to our yearbook staff. The VHS yearbook staff was recognized as a pacemaker finalist at the Minneapolis JEA and NSPA convention. The 2025 book revision was among the 58 books to receive such an award. The award recognizes only the best yearbooks across the nation. I'm going to say that again, across the nation. Bettendorf was the only Iowa school to receive such recognition. So an absolute congratulations and a big shout out to our yearbook staff.
That is awesome. Thank you. And Director Brody, would you take item number 4, please?
Sure. The BHS Instrumental Music Department had a successful day at the IHSMA Solo and Small Ensemble Contest. BHS had more than 30 students participate, with the following individuals or groups receiving a Division I Superior Award. Bassoon Trio, Chloe Martin, Sophia Lynch, Jacob Weiss, Clarinet Duo, Liam Renberg, and Ishika Matwani. Woodwind Quintet, Sophia Lynch, Hadley Apple, Cindy Cousins, Ishika Matwani, and Linnea Arnell Luke. Cello Bass Duet, Kasia Anderson, Stella Lund. Cello Saxophone Duet, Kasia Anderson, Colby Anderson. Cello Bass Duet, Stephen Schwartz, Stella Lund. VHS Quintet, Claire Zarupa, Noah Halas, Brant Snyder, Kasia Anderson, Stella Lund. Cello Bassoon Duet, Kasia Anderson, Chloe Martin. Soloist receiving Division I awards were Sophia Lynch on the bassoon, Jacob Weiss the bassoon, Hadley Apple on the oboe, Paula Schwann clarinet, Will Himes trumpet, Chloe Martin bassoon, Paula Schwann bass clarinet, Kasia Anderson cello, Stella Lund the bass, Ben Gillette cello, and Stephen Schwartz the cello. In addition, 2 ensembles received the Best in Center Award, awarded to the best ensemble for soloist performance in that center for the day. And they will be invited to the state level solo small ensemble showcase in Ames on May 19th, the bassoon trio and the clarinet duo. Way to go. Congratulations to all of our participating musicians. Tons of hard work went into these performances at the busiest time of the year. Are any of you people here? We'd like to have you stand. Well, congratulations. Good job.
Thank you. Okay, that brings it to number 5, student board representatives report. Do we have any student board representatives here today? Seeing none, that brings it to number 6, the president's statement. If anyone in the audience would like to approach the microphone and talk to the board, you have 3 minutes. Keep your thoughts organized. Report, pick up the sheet or sign the sheet over there so we know who you are. And we have 3 minutes. We don't discuss personnel or job performances. You are now on the clock, as they said in the WNBA draft.
Thank you very much. I did fill out the sheet. My name is Sarah Ballinger, and I am the PTO treasurer at Hoover Elementary. I am here representing the parent population there, and would love to invite you to come to Hoover and address some of the things that I'm going to cover in this statement. We've seen that there are quite a few changes that are occurring, in particular with our personnel, classroom sizes, things of that nature. I know there is a policy out there right now, 6061, and a revision that addresses several of these items. That leads us to several questions that have come up in our last meeting. In particular, around the elements in that policy that speak to how classroom sizes can be fluctuating based on social needs, special education students, things of that nature. We also have not noticed that within that policy that there's anything that addresses the max or the minimum classroom size to be able to reopen a section. Hoover has been reduced to 2 sections, both in kindergarten and in 1st grade, and it sounds like it's going to happen again in 4th grade next year, which is not trending the direction we want, nor I think you either. We have also then, with those maximum capacities in those smaller grades, have had to turn away students from our school. So with that being thought out, if we're thinking about those thresholds of the minimum amounts and those students that we've had to turn away, that's something that we definitely need to address. With Iowa passing school choice and listing one of its fundamental goals with it to foster competition and opportunities, how are we going to keep our school competitive? Hoover and other elementaries in the district, there is no guarantee that those children that you're turning away are even going to go to another elementary in our district. They could choose to take those school choice dollars and go elsewhere, and then you're not going to get them back. And then how are we also supposed to stay competitive? Our classroom sizes are getting bigger. I can speak from experience that with my daughter coming from the Family Museum with a size of 10, I looked at everything. I looked at Rivermont, I looked at Montessori, I looked at various other schools. And it wasn't until I walked into Hoover and I was told that her classroom size was going to be 18, and I met the staff, that I felt confident that she could go to Hoover. If she had been turned away, if she had been told that she was going to have 22, or if I had those school choice dollars, I don't know what my decision would have been, but I can tell you it would have moved probably in a different direction. So reattracting those children after we've turned them away is not something. And then I understand budget plays a big part, and we don't see all the things behind the curtain. I'm fully aware that there's lots of moving parts and pieces, and it's not an easy decision on that front. However, we do need to think about the future and how we want to attract those kids back, and how we want to keep those classroom sizes small, and how we want to be competitive in that regard. So if we're making choices in a surplus situation right now to reduce teachers or move them around, I know that has to be impacting attrition. I know that has to be impacting people who are thinking about coming for a district as a teacher. So I don't know how you can tell someone to come here with this level of ambiguity currently in our system. I graduated Bettendorf in 1996. Senior Castro was one of my teachers, huge fan still. I left after college and did not return until 2019, specifically to raise my daughter here and have her have this. Is that time?
You collapse it down. You have a few more?
Okay.
Yeah.
Specifically to raise her here, just like I had this opportunity. I want to see the best for this Bettendorf community. So again, if you could please come to Hoover and address some of these specific needs, we would greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Anyone else like to approach the microphone? You are on the clock.
All right. Hi. So, my name is Matt Kelly. I'm a parent of 2 kids in this district. One is a kindergartner at Paul Norton. Another one will be coming in as a preschooler next year. I'm just here today to request the board add to the May 14th, 2026 meeting agenda to discuss a resolution that has been emailed to everyone on this board about to urge the governor of Iowa and the state legislators to fully fund our public schools and to implement appropriate regulations for the ESA voucher program. The resolution outlines long-standing concerns about funding in Iowa for schools. According to publicly available information, the state has underfunded public school for more than a decade, providing an average increase of just 2% in the SSAs since 2012. In addition, a lot of people in the community have raised concerns about the financial impact of the ESA program. The reports that are publicly available indicates that we have reduced funding for public schools available to us, have cost taxpayers in the 2023-2024 year $129 million, $218 million in 24-25, and we have a projected loss of $315 million in the 2025-2026 school years. This resolution also notes that school districts across Iowa have already taken action. 14 of them have already adopted this. It would be Bennett, South Tama, Urbandale, Cedar Falls, Cedar Rapids, Keokuk, Decorah, and quite a few others. They have publicly affirmed a principle shared by many Iowans: public funds should be for public schools. For these reasons alone, I respectfully ask that this resolution be fully given consideration by the board. The only reason I say that is because my kids deserve the exact same chances that every other kid had before. We don't need to be giving our money away to other programs when our kids need it the most. And we've heard that more and more. I'm just here to fight for my kids and everyone's kids. But I just want to get that to you guys' attention, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else like to approach the podium?
Yes, hi, sorry. Heidi did have, I so she doesn't interrupt. Is it okay if I just get back here? I can speak loudly. Okay. I'm Samantha Anderson, I'm the Bettendorf resident, the parent of 3 students that are actively in the district. They have a 9th grader, a 6th grader. This is Caroline. She started preschool a couple weeks ago with the special education program. And I'm here, representing the parents of Bettendorf community. My 9th grader was jumped recently, several weeks ago after the school bus stopped in an unauthorized spot against the school policy to let the students off of the bus to jump my students. And it's carried over. He's been jumped again on Friday in front of 4 Bettendorf police officers. So I'd like to know, I've reached out to people via social media and I've had over 100 messages and comments about parents who share the same concerns about things getting swept under the rug as far as violence goes, particularly in the middle school and high school. I'd like to bring it to your attention and know what the school board is doing to support parents and keep our students safe. Because at this point, I'm ready to pull all my kids out of here and homeschool, and I'm not a teacher. I'm a pediatric nurse actually by trade, so when these things escalate and kids bring guns to school or whatever it is, I'm going to get your kids in my pediatric ICU, and I don't want to take care of them, and I don't want those things to happen. So I'd like to know what the board is doing to ensure that administration is following policy, because I can reference 3 different policies that have not been followed with my students in particular.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Anyone else like to approach the podium at this time? Going once, going twice, sold. Okay, that brings us to number 7, the BEA report. Emily, come on down.
Tonight, it's important to acknowledge that we have come to a tentative agreement, which is really exciting because it's the earliest we've had it in a few years. So I think it speaks to a lot of different things. But it's important to note and acknowledge that both groups encountered some challenges with the process this year, and we ultimately reached that settlement. There were moments, particularly during that financial discussion, where the process didn't function as intended, I think, on all sides. And we recognize that both sides contributed to those challenges. At the same time, we continue to see success that comes from collaboration. That's the heart of the IBPS process. On a personal level, Miley and I have been able to move forward on items that had previously sought or we had thought about, and building that, creating that space for open dialogue and sharing, doing some problem solving through efforts like during some discussions, and we built stronger understanding and we've seen positive outcomes in discussions. And we've been more able to clearly communicate both the process and our thinking with board members, and hope to keep that process going. This commitment to the collaboration is also evident at the BEA level. Even outside the formal IDPS structure, we've met with special education teachers and begun developing a more consistent line of communication with TJ and Karen, including working to establish regular meeting times. These are important steps in strengthening relationships and creating more proactive solution-focused conversations. In addition, we want to recognize the continued success happening at the building level. Building reps and administrators are constantly meeting, bringing forward concerns, and working together to address issues directly. That ongoing site-based collaboration reflects the intent of IBPS and is something we're celebrating. Despite the challenges we experience within the formal IBPS process, we remain committed to the model and believe in its potential when implemented with fidelity. We agreed to the settlement that we shared with the understanding that this work would continue. As part of that commitment, we plan to hold a follow-up IBPS meeting later to reflect on this year's process, identify areas of improvement, and collectively set goals and clear timeline for next year. We have set that agreement with the hope of getting a meeting sometime next week, but we have not heard anything from the other parties. We have not yet received that. So we want to be transparent that the final agreement was not completed through that full IBPS process. As how we presented, how it came here, how it came back, that's not typically how that process would work. And so looking ahead, how are we going to share that up so that we can collaboratively work ahead? And overall, we are hopeful about refining the process and continuing to build a stronger and more effective partnership moving forward. I also need to take a moment to recognize or have you seen me as a teacher as well. I am a BEA president, but I'm a teacher, I'm a mom, I'm a community member in this community, and this is home to me. It's where I've chosen to build my career, moved my kids here to raise my family and invest the time and energy, and that's why I'm here. But right now, we're at an impasse. There's things happening. And this week I experienced one of the worst days I've had in my career, and behavior is part of it, but what happened in our buildings is a direct reflection of unrealistic expectations handed down by people who aren't in the hallway. This is not just about me, it's about building administrators who are trying to hold it together. It's parents giving everything they have and being asked for more. It's every adult in the walls that are carrying the weight of decisions they didn't make and are expected to carry out and fix. And that weight doesn't stay at school. It comes home for everybody in this room. This is at the dinner table. It follows you into the weekend. I've chosen this work because I love it. I love the leadership. However, being met with disrespect and retaliation doesn't affect your personal life. It affects the family, my health, and if I could show up the next day as a person to the students that they need me to be. And I say that not for sympathy, but I say it out loud so the board understands I am not being separated from my job and as the BEA president. I have come up to every collaborative meeting with the intention of problem solving, and I've been asked to have hard conversations, in which I have. I've brought forward those very concerns. I have shared the data that was asked. I have done that with honesty and professionalism every step of the way. And there have been amazing wins, and I don't want that to be blown over, but I have tried and tried and tried. I have witnessed it. I have experienced what has not been consistent. I have been disrespected in professional studies. Comments about where degrees hold more value than classroom experience, collaboration, and education of teachers. We are in almost 100 people that have reported that to me. Many of whom have had their master's plus 45. Comments like, who does she think she is, when a resource was being used and real success was happening following the proper chain of commands, and has been reported and taken away without following the proper procedure. That's my job, and it was taken out on me and my students because I'm not being separated out from my role. Work needing to wait till the summer so BEA is not breathing down their neck. BEA has been collaborative. I have tried. My professionalism, my experience, my efforts, and it's not valued, and I feel used. I love the IBPS process, I love it. But at this point, the end of last week, I felt used. I'm not anyone without this work. BEA work alike.
But as a leader of your union, look how I'm treated. If this is how I feel, and I know it's been reported several times, teachers are not talking, and we ask, what are we going to do to make them feel valued? But some aren't staying quiet anymore, they're leaving. We have lost valued leaders from our buildings, teachers who are respected, who are experienced, who have poured themselves into this district, and then have reached the point where they had no other choice but to leave and go somewhere else. Teachers are resigning. We see it come in. You guys, we approve it. They're walking away from classrooms, from students, from a community that they cared about, pulling their kids even. So I ask the board, everyone in this room, have we truly listened to them? Are we truly listening to the teachers? While we do have the problem solving and we're meeting, sometimes it feels like that time was wasted, like we were just there. I'm not speaking, that's not me personally, that's several teachers. My voice didn't get quieter for no reason, it got quieter because every time I use it, it came at a cost. I'm tired of advocating with evidence and being met with pushback instead of partnership. Tired of leading with solutions being met with silence or being targeted. Tired of watching the people in our buildings give everything they have while it's still told it's not enough. What really gets me is that we should be celebrating right now because work is getting done. We've made progress. Instead, I'm standing here wondering if I want to continue being a teacher. But if it wasn't for my amazing team, my building at Hoover, and the support system I have, I don't know if I could keep going on. We don't do this work for personal gain. We don't manipulate situations. We're here because this is home. Bettendorf's home. We all want this to be home. So if we want to move forward, we want to retain our teachers, if we want to increase enrollment, as we all continuously say, and have families choose Bettendorf, not PV, not private schools, we have to start valuing the people that are actually here, from students, everybody. And that means respect and real collaboration. That's just walking through the motions. I'm still here because I'm committed and I believe in Bettendorf, but I've hit that point where I don't know what to do next.
Thank you very much, Emily. Bessa next. Melissa?
Good evening, everybody. First, I'm going to say Happy Administrative Professionals Week to all of the administrative professionals in the district. They are the glue that holds it all together, so thank you for all that you do. As you'll hear later this evening, BESA was able to ratify our tentative agreement with the district for our contract for the 26-27 school year, and I'm pleased to report that we have 100% member participation and a unanimous approval. The efforts of the IUPS team can't be dismissed. While we don't always do things perfectly, the team continues to be a work in progress, and BESA is committed to working together with the entire team to keep things moving in a positive direction. I would like to encourage everyone district-wide to wear red on Friday, May 1st in support of public education. Later in that evening, we'd like to invite you to join ISBA at Davenport West High School at 6 p.m. for a Stand Up for Public Education in May rally. Bring a non-perishable food item to the event to donate to local public school pantry programs, and there'll be ice cream treats, and we encourage you to bring lawn chairs or blankets to sit on. If you're interested in attending, you can find the information on the ISD website with the QR to RSVP so we know how much ice cream to have for the event. And we do have 10 different people who are speaking on the 10 tenets of the Educator Bill of Rights. So you will see some familiar faces at the podium. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to agenda item number 9, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Morse.
Good evening. I will echo what Melissa said. We are celebrating our amazing administrative professionals this week across our district. I want to personally thank them. They are the heart of our district. We appreciate all that they do to support our district and our families. I had the opportunity last week to attend the high school's Student First recognition, and then this week, middle school's similar program called Rising Star Recognition. So back to high school, this is such an incredible event. I don't think there is anyone in the room that doesn't at some point in time have tears in their eyes. Where students who have shown tremendous tenacity and perseverance are recognized, and they have an opportunity to recognize that very special adult who helped them through those challenging times. So Huge shout out goes to Melissa Laufenberg, who is the principal secretary at the high school, who does all of the behind the scenes legwork to coordinate it and make sure that the food is there, that the students receive and staff receive their awards, that there's an amazing PowerPoint that goes with it so we can learn about each honoree. And to the administrative team at the high school and all of the staff at the high school for the time they put into carefully selecting students to the event itself in the recognition and truly helping our students understand how special they are and how special it is to see them persevere. Middle school, one of our deans, Emily Henneman, who happened to be previously a Spanish teacher at the high school, had a vision last year to start a similar recognition program at the middle school to provide opportunities for middle school students who have experienced challenges younger in their career in education and recognize their hard work, their grit, and their perseverance. She did a beautiful job. Both events are graciously sponsored by donors who provide the food and the awards for staff and students. It's always a great time just to be in a space where students and staff are being recognized. It was really neat to see one of our retirees from middle school, a student who had been supported by that teacher who retired last spring. Their first 2 years at middle school nominated this teacher as their support person, and she came back from retirement to be there on Wednesday night or Tuesday night, and it was great to see her. Melissa, you forgot to put the plug in for Anastasia. Well, I'm going to do it for you. How does that sound?
That's why none of the kids are here tonight, because they're all in the pit warming up right
Exactly. Opening night is tonight, as Melissa just indicated, for our spring musical, Anastasia. I hope that you all can find time to come this weekend. I've snuck in and seen little pieces of rehearsal here and there, and it looks like it's going to be an amazing show. Opens tonight. There's a show tomorrow night, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon. So thank you to all of our directors, our drama director, choir directors, all of the staff that it takes to pull that off, and our students for sharing their talents with all of us. ISASP, wow, what a few weeks it's been. As our district wraps up this year's ISASP, which is our state assessments, I want to take a moment to thank some people on our teams. Ben Reller, our Director of IT, without you, principals would be, I think, lost in this regard. You have created systems and spreadsheets to help us make sure that all students are accounted for, loaded into the system, and that the needed necessary accommodations and modifications are reported to the state. I overwhelmingly heard in every space I was with building leaders how much time that saved them and how appreciative they are of your work. Jamie Olson, our Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction, thank you for making sure that staff were trained, buildings had the supplies, materials they needed, and that if there were any testing variations we had to report, that you were timely, you were on it, and interfacing with the state. And thank you to our building leaders for all of their behind-the-scenes work to ensure a smooth rollout and execution of the assessment. And most importantly, thank you to all of our teachers and support staff and students who were in the trenches doing this work. We had some unexpected surprises this year. The math assessment was done differently, and nobody was prepared for how long it actually took. And so everybody's flexibility, middle school led with that, with learning that, and so then shared it with all their other colleagues. But our students did great. We are close to 100% participation in all of our buildings, and they're just finishing up the last minute makeups. It is a big undertaking, and we recognize that it adds also stress to our students. So thank you to our families for helping get their students to school. And then I had the privilege of meeting with our School Improvement Advisory Committee for the last time this year on Monday night. We had a great turnout. We had a wonderful discussion around the current legislation in play and how the session's wrapping up. The questions asked were fantastic. We also started looking at what could our work next year together look like. And we just had a great meeting. And Bray was unable to be there on Monday, but Lee Marbach from Russell, who's our project lead for the construction project at middle school, came and provided a nice update to our SIAC members, which they appreciated and had asked for earlier in the school year. So it was a great meeting and a nice way to end our time together this school year. That's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Morse. That brings us to agenda item number 5, consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Director Castro,
Yes.
Director Ingalls,
Yes.
Director Hansen,
Yes.
Director Larkin,
Yes.
Director McGivern,
Yes.
Director Witter,
Yes.
Director Birdie,
Like the appreciate fruit, but the one. Yes.
thanks. Motion carried 7.1, 7.0.
Thank you. That brings us down to item number 6, information and action. First one is the March financials. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the March financials as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion, Tyler?
Thank you. Good evening. So just a quick note. So we just ended our third quarter, right? So we just have one more quarter to go. Reducing the overall general fund by 1.18 million, and that's on track with the budget that had been established for this year. So I think we're sitting in a very healthy shape. No concerns going into this final fiscal quarter.
Any other discussion or questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Director Ingalls,
Yes.
Director Hansen,
Yes.
Director Larkin,
Yes.
Director McGivern,
Yes.
Director Witter,
Yes.
Director Birdie,
Rudy, yes.
So sorry. Director Castro.
Yes.
Motion carried 7.0.
Thank you. That brings us to item 6.2 of the fiscal year 2027 budget. Is there a motion?
Yes, I move we approve the FY 2027 budget as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second is moved and seconded. Any discussion? Tyler?
I have no further discussion. We've had several conversations about the budget, and we've had our public hearing, so I have nothing additional to add.
Great. Roll call, please.
Director Hansen,
Yes.
Director Larkin,
Yes.
Director McGivern,
Yes.
Director Witter,
Yes.
Director Birdie,
Rudy, yes.
Director Castro,
Yes.
Director Ingalls.
Yes.
Motion carried 7.0.
That brings us to agenda item 6.3, the resolution fixing the sale date, etc. Is there a motion?
Yes, I move that we approve the resolution of fixing sale date and approving official statement of approximately $31,820,000 in sales tax bonds.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Tyler, is this still your bailiwick?
This has been quite the labor of love, I'll say that. But we have Matt Gillespie on the line from Piper Sandler, who's been kind of shepherding us through this process, educating me, hopefully going to educate you guys a little bit on next steps and what this all looks like.
Yeah, so good evening, board. I would ask Ben if he could let me share my screen, and I'll go through a few worksheets with you. This isn't necessarily required for your resolution tonight, but I thought that it might be a good idea, since I haven't spoken with the board for a while, to kind of give you a little bit of an education session. I won't try not to take too much of your time, but certainly we want to give you time to ask questions, etc. So if I can, let's see, share my screen just a moment.
Thank you.
And then I see that you did allow that, but I don't use Google Meets very often. It's telling me that my browser may be blocking Meet from my screen sharing.
Oh, as we're figuring that out, this is Patrick, by the way. Question, of the 31 million, how much is going to be put up for auction?
Yeah, that for this sale that's coming up that you're approving the official statement for tonight, the amount that we will ask bidders to bid on is $31,820,000.
A whole lot of
And then that number, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Matt, what, if you can't share your screen, what documents would I have them? It's Dr. Morse. Would I have them that I could have Celeste?
Yeah, it's the PDF that I had sent to you kind of later in the day today, just saying that, you know, these are the pages that I'm.
Let me grab it real quick and
I'm
I'll
talking
get it over
about.
to Celeste. Matt and Tyler, while I'm doing that, do you guys want to speak to why it's 31 million versus the 9,999 from last year?
Yes, yeah, I can speak to that, and
Thank
then,
you.
Tyler, if you have some other information, certainly you can add that. So originally, the plan was that we began with before last year, which was kind of spreading these borrowings out over a longer period of time. You would have been issuing this year probably around 10 million, maybe 15 million, and then the balance of the bonds probably next year. However, Bettendorf, along with quite a few other schools, it's an enormous number of schools that are selling sales tax bonds here over the past 2 weeks and in the next 4 to 6 weeks. So quite a few different districts, including Bettendorf, came to me and said, hey, we're really concerned about the legislature, what changes they may make, and we'd like to expedite the sale of our bonds. In the case of Bettendorf and some of those other schools, you are already obviously in the middle of, you know, a construction project. It's not that you are just waiting to take bids and, you know, you're going to start that project in 6 months or a year or what have you. You already have things actually happening. So if you could not get access to these funds, there is at least, I'm not suggesting this would happen, we don't know, but there is at least the possibility that you could maybe default on your construction contracts, which would not be pleasant for anyone, and it would not just impact Bettendorf. If that were to happen to a school because of the legislative changes, it would probably be impacting all schools statewide, because the bidders on the bonds, the rating agencies, et cetera, would be looking to Iowa and saying, hey, you know, if the legislature will do this, with, you know, make this kind of a significant impact, what are they going to do next? And it probably would mean maybe these bidders would skip over Iowa and just say, hey, we're not even going to waste our time bidding in that state because there's just too much uncertainty, et cetera. So to make a long story, which is you're probably used to me telling long stories, shorter, we determined that we would try to expedite the sale for Bettendorf and these other schools to get things closed prior to June 30th or on June 30th, as is your case, so that if the legislature does make changes, and they're literally talking about it right now, maybe not at 6:40 p.m., but they were today at 5 o'clock, and all day long. And yesterday they were having public hearings, et cetera, that we attended, not me, but other people from Piper. I was at bond sales trying to explain to the legislature, you know, what would happen if they make X, Y, and Z changes. One of the changes that was at least originally in one of the bills, I do not know if it's still in the bill this afternoon, because again, they've been negotiating these things in real time right now. Well, one of the things was that you would have to have had an election to get authority to sell the sales tax bonds for any reason. You may or may not remember that that is part of the law right now, but only if it's for an athletic purpose, and only if you get petitioned during the hearing process. You've already held your hearing, you didn't get petitioned, which is why you have the authority to issue the bonds right now. But had that law changed, or if that law were to change, and if it were to include that provision, and then you had to have an election, of course, we don't know what would happen, right? We don't know if the community would support it or not support it. If it would take 50% or if it would take 60%, that would all be part of the discussion in the legislature. And of course, you need some of the money, at least immediately, to continue your construction projects through the summer and fall. And what would happen if that were to happen, where you had to have the election, the election, again, we don't know for sure, but probably what the legislature has done is they've made these types of elections only possible in November. So you would certainly have to wait until after November to issue even the 10 million bonds or whatever, any number. So there was just enough risk, potential risk, that lots of schools determined they wanted to sell these bonds early. And when I can show you some of the worksheets that I'm going to talk about, I'll show you why I'm not as concerned about your ability to pay the bonds some districts we are, but not Bettendorf, and I can show you some numbers so that that'll make a little bit more sense to you. So from your aspect, I don't think that you'd be selling the bonds, and then the law changes, you get less money, and you're screwed because you don't have enough money to make the payment on the bonds.
Matt?
That is, yep.
That document is now up on the screen. Can you see our screen?
Let me get back to where I can see. I cannot see your screen, at least not currently. But I can lead you through it.
Yeah, the first page of that document is up with the estimated sources and uses.
Yep. Okay, so that page, first of all, this is fairly simple, this page. This is just showing you the combination of last year's bonds plus the estimates for this year's bond. The things that are shaded in that kind of tan, beige, peach color, I'm colorblind, so I'm not sure what that color is, but the things that are shaded, those are facts. Those happened last year, so we know what the result was. The other items that are referenced by the 2026 bonds, those are estimates. Hopefully they're reasonably close, but they're certainly not going to be 100% accurate. But that's just showing you selling, just slightly under 9 million or 10 million to the bond principal last year, a little over 31 million this year, and then at the top of that in the yellow box, trying to fund the target of 35 million. So I'm not certain that the 35 million is still, your target. I know it's kind of constantly moving. Could be a little bit higher, could be a little bit lower, and the bond proceeds could be a little bit more, a little bit less than what this shows because of the bidding process. But the big picture of this worksheet is just showing you the $35 million in projects would be coming from the issuance of last year's sales tax bonds plus this year's sales tax bonds. Also in that top box, the bigger box, you can see that one of the things that would have to be done with some of this money would be to pay off the remaining portion of your 2018 bonds, 3.3 million. So that's not an added cost to you, it's just a premature cost. You're basically paying the principal off now instead of paying it over time and accruing interest. The reason for that is because the payments in this period between now and 2029, when the sales tax was originally going to end, back when you issued those bonds, we all thought that the tax was going to end in 2029. So you were borrowing, like every other district, with payments that would extend out to 2029. Well, now that you can borrow for a much longer period of time, because the law was changed in 2019, and this is true of many other districts as well, we have to get rid of some of the principal payments that are due in the next couple of years. Those payments aren't too high for you to afford to pay them, but they are too high for you to afford to add significant amount of additional debt on top of it and still have the payments in the next 3 years be affordable. So that's the reason for that part of it. If you go to the next page, and I'll come back to these, and you guys can ask questions about any of it before we actually go to the resolution, etc. Excuse me, but on the next page, that top right corner should say Series 2026. And what this is the estimate of what this amortization of this new bond might look like. So you can see that there would not be principal payments. This is the second from the left column of the worksheet. The principal would begin in 2030, and then it would go out to 2046. So basically extending out for a 20-year period. You can actually borrow through 2050 currently, and some schools are doing that. You don't need to do that. You could, but of course, the longer you extend the debt out, the more interest that's accruing. So you want to try to keep it in a relatively short period of time. I realize 20 years is not necessarily a short period of time, but this is going out 20 years. The reason there is no principal before that is because of the debt that you already have. Those payments are already there, and we need to account for those. But if you look at the far right column, this has the red box and the blue box. What this is showing is what we call the debt service coverage. So it's a relationship between how much money comes into you versus how much do you owe to make payments on this debt. And the number that's in the yellow box, the 5,208,000, that's not a number that you're ever going to see anywhere in school documents or Department of Revenue documents, because it's using your October of 2025 certified count multiplied times the fiscal year 26 revenue per student statewide sales tax. Those two numbers are never going to be multiplied times each other, but we have to do that because when we go to borrow, or when the school goes to borrow, we have to use whatever the most currently known facts are. So we know that there's a fact of what your current enrollment is. We know that there's a fact of what the Department of Revenue says per student revenue is, even though those two numbers are based on different fiscal years, it doesn't matter. That's just what we have to do. So if you're getting 5,208,000, the numbers in the right column are showing that you would have about $1.26 to $1.28 coming in for every dollar that you owe to make a payment on the sales tax bonds. And if we didn't remove the existing bonds that are being taken out by that roughly $3 million, those numbers that are in that red box, they would fall down below 1.2. And we can't fall below 1.2 because when you issued those bonds years ago, you agreed that you wouldn't issue more bonds unless we could prove that there's at least this 1.25 times debt service coverage for the protection of the bondholder, but also for the protection of the district, not to go too deep in debt, basically. But then in the blue lines or the blue box, that's showing you that once we get beyond 2029, when those old bonds are gone, and it's only the new bonds, and the new bonds meaning last year's bond as well, you have quite a bit more coverage, close to 1.5 times coverage. And it's that reason that you see there that I say, if the legislature were to change the revenue distribution, and there's various proposals, taking more money from you. One of the proposals does it faster, one of them does it a little bit slower. One of them does it to up to 30% of the revenue gets diverted away from schools. One of them, 25% gets diverted away. And that money, as it's getting diverted away, by the way, if you're not sure, you haven't been paying attention to what's happening, that money would be going to the PETER fund. That's the Property Tax Equity Relief Fund. So it would be coming back to schools, but it wouldn't necessarily be coming back to Bettendorf, and it wouldn't be coming back to any school to build a building or improve a building or remodel a building, because it would be taken away from the infrastructure fund, which is the sales tax fund, and it would come back to the property poorest of schools first to help buy down their property tax levies. And then some of the money would go even to the property richest district, which would be Okoboji, Clear Lake, those schools. They wouldn't get much of the money, but they would get some of it. And then Bettendorf, you guys fall somewhere in the middle. Excuse me. So you would get some of the money back, but probably not all of the share that's being diverted away from you. We could talk about this all night if you want to ask more questions, etc. about that. I hope that you've been aware of it to some degree and that you've been talking to your legislators, because they are literally going to be making a decision maybe tomorrow, who knows, but soon, because the legislative session should be ending, and they are hell-bent on getting something changed, whether it's a good idea or not. They want something to be changed so that they can check a box and say, we made a change and we lowered property taxes in some way, even though the proposal does not lower everyone's property taxes. It levies some, but not everybody. And the current bill that they've been looking at, by the way, is going to probably increase your property taxes if you own a residential property, which is pretty much all of you and all of me, if you have a residential property that's assessed at more than about $200,000. The decrease in taxes would go to large corporations and agricultural landowners. I don't know that that's the intention of the legislature. I have no idea, but that's the way the numbers work out. So if you agree with that, if you would like to pay more property taxes, just so that the legislature can check a box and say that they lowered someone's property taxes, you might want to be speaking to your legislators pronto, like tonight. Anyway, off the soapbox, sorry, back to this worksheet. So theoretically, where you see the $5.2 million number, you wouldn't be getting $5.2 million anymore. Normally that number steps up. I know on this page it looks stagnant because, again, that's just the way we have to represent it to the attorneys. But in reality, that number steps up each year, usually, almost every year. Even if you lose a few students, you usually get more money because the revenue, the sales tax generates grows. But in this case, you would probably drop from getting 5.2 million to some lower number. We don't know for sure what that number is. We have ideas about what the number would be, but we don't know for sure. But it would not be dropping below the 4 million, that you still have a bond payment for, and certainly not below the 3.5 million that you see the payments drop to after fiscal year 29. So it's very, very unlikely, I would actually go out on a limb and say impossible, that you would default on this debt. You still would be getting a significant amount of revenue, just not as much as you're getting now. So that wouldn't prohibit you from paying the bond payments, but it certainly could hurt your ability to fund school bus purchases or leases, laptop, computer, and technology replacement and refreshes, tuck pointing, fixing the carpet, fixing the leaking roof, all of those other things that you just pay cash for from sales tax. It could be impacting those things. And by the way, there's also simultaneous discussion today, yesterday, et cetera, of changing the entire property tax system such that it would impact the amount of PEPAL that you get and debt service if you had general obligation bonds, which you don't. But if you did, it would impact that, and it would impact all of the other parts of property tax as well. But for the school district, of course, the most important things are the PEPAL and the sales tax, or excuse me, the PEPAL and the debt service levy. So very big changes being contemplated, but your coverage, because you are not borrowing the most you possibly can, and many schools are doing that, the most you can would be taking this blue box all the way down to that 1.25 calculation. Some schools are doing it because it's not illegal, there's nothing wrong with it. Under the current law, it certainly makes sense for some schools. They can easily pay the debt back. They have needs that they feel that they need to fund, et cetera. It just so happens that your needs, while significant, they don't require you to borrow the most you possibly can, so to speak. It's those districts that when they get less money, if they get less money because of the legislative changes, there's a chance that they could literally not just default on construction contracts, but literally default on the debt that they already have. We don't think that would happen because there are reserve funds. You know, most districts have cash sitting there anyway, and which you do as well, and you could use that cash to make the payment if you were really that short. But the point is, on paper, it appears that some schools could possibly default, but not Bettendorf. If we go to the next few pages, I'm not going to go over, the next section is just one huge long spreadsheet, and those of you that have been on the board for a few years, you probably remember seeing me talking about this before. I know it's probably very difficult for you to see it up on your screen, but what this is showing is a cash flow that combines your sales tax revenue, your voted PEPAL, and your board PEPAL, all together in one big pot of money. All of this is based off of current law, not off of any hypothetical, we don't know any change, et cetera. So that's all the money that's coming in on the left side of the page is revenue from sales tax, revenue from PEPAL. On the far right side of the page, the yellow box shows that you had $14.2 million in the bank in sales tax and PEPAL funds in December. So that's the kind of the beginning of this checkbook register-ish type worksheet. So you had 14 million. We start month by month. We keep adding more revenue coming in from sales tax and PEPAL, et cetera. But then we're deducting the bond payments. So the existing payments that you already have, plus last year's bond payment, plus right in the middle of that kind of left side column where that squiggly arrow is pointing to, that would be the payments on the new bond, the bond that you're going to be contemplating doing here in the coming months. So all of the bond payments are accounted for here. And then in the kind of right to the right middle, where you see the yellow box that shows 8.18 million, that's being deducted. Those are PEPAL projects that you have already approved doing. Those are just things that have been on your list that hadn't been funded by December, but yet you still are working through those. Those are things that aren't being funded from the bond. They're just, like I said, I don't know what they all are. You guys probably know much better than I do, but it would be things like tuck pointing and fixing a roof and, replacing sidewalks and fixing a parking lot, all of those types of things. So there's about $8 million of that stuff that is still left to be funded in cash. And then under that, in that column, you then see the number 4.6 million, and then the next one is 3.9 million. And if you keep going on to the future pages, you see additional numbers. Those are amounts that have been in your deferred maintenance plan. So it doesn't mean that you're absolutely going to fund them, but they're in the column saying, yep, the board is aware of these things. The board knows these need to be, funded, and probably you would be funding them. And then to the left side of that line, going up and down that middle of that section, where the big yellow box is pointing down, the pale yellow box. This is not expenditures that you have said, we're going to do this, we're going to spend $2.8 million more each year. That is a number that I put in there. And I was trying to show the board, in addition to the bonds, and in addition to your couple project list, which includes, very significant things, how much extra could you fund? These are other things that you haven't agreed to do, or that you haven't removed from the we want to do this to we will do this column. So I put in there 2.8 million each year for the next few years, because if I put a bigger number in there, it would have drawn future balances down below zero. But then if you go to the second page of that worksheet, then you get to, now we're out into the time period of 2030 to 2035. You see still, there's numbers under the deferred maintenance. They get much smaller because, of course, your list is contemplating doing things in the short term, but there are things on that deferred list. And then the number that I had in there is now getting bigger. Now it's 4.5 million, then it's 5.1 million, then it's 4.4 million. And then, again, where the squiggly line is, because your deferred maintenance plan only goes out so far, I just then merged everything together and said, no matter what it is, what kind of spending it is, whether it's deferred maintenance, it's whatever, just some super project that you want to do, how much could you spend without taking your balances below zero? Now, these numbers are certainly not written in stone. There's lots of assumptions being made that could prove to be more favorable. They could prove to be less favorable. They are reasonable assumptions that we basically make, all the schools across the state. And we've been doing this for 25 years with sales tax, so we have a pretty good idea of how it works, but it's not guaranteed. But it is showing you having the ability still to fund school bus purchases, technology, renovations, maintenance, smaller summer projects, et cetera, even with the bond payments outstanding. So you see where that circled red is on the right side. I was putting in numbers big enough in that I wouldn't take that number below zero. So if you go down that column, you see the number actually drops to the $2,000 level out in 2033 and then 2034. So it's unlikely in reality, if this was totally 100% accurate, it's not going to be, right? Lots of estimates. But if it was 100% accurate, the board would not be spending as much as what I'm showing here. I'm just showing maybe how much could you spend. But I don't think that most boards would spend their balances down to $2,000, although you could, because if you look in that far right column, under the $2,000 figure in July of 2033, for example, because you do get a significant amount of sales tax, even if it's reduced, just the very next month, when you got your next sales tax collection, that $2,000 figure would pop up to $400,000, then $800,000, and then $3.4 million, because at that time, then you'd start getting your spring or your winter on, PEPL, the distributions. So the point of the worksheet is to show you, to make a board member or a community member maybe more comfortable saying, hey, this is a large amount of borrowing we're doing. These are big projects. Obviously, you know that. You've already been talking through this for several years. But it's to say, even with the big bond and bond payments, there's still a significant amount of cash that the district has for other needs. If the legislature does make a change, it is the number that you see in that column where I put 2.8 million, 5.3 million, 6.2 million. The other spending, that's the number that would be affected. And it could be affected significantly in one year. It may not be that significant of a difference. It just depends on what the legislature does here. If anything, they may not make any changes, but I think they are going to, because again, they're kind of hell-bent on doing some kind of a change. So that's the cash flow. It goes all the way out to 2050, which is when the sales tax ends currently. One of the good things about one of the bills being considered with these changes to the distribution formula, one of the bills, and I can't remember now if it's the House bill or the Senate bill, but it actually includes an extension of the sales tax for 20 more years. So instead of ending in January 2051, it would then be extended out to January 2071. So, schools would be giving up something on one side, not as much cash on an annual basis in the short term, but you'd be getting a much more certain long-term access to that cash flow. And then if you go to the next page beyond those cash flow worksheets, There you see the timeline for this particular project. Hopefully you've already been somewhat aware of this. We are at, of course, the April 23rd date, so we'll get to the resolution in just a minute. But beyond the April 23rd date, you'd be setting the sale for May 28th at 1 o'clock. So this is the same process that you've been through before. That is a public event. It's not a public meeting at 1 o'clock, but anybody can come because it is a public event. Usually nobody comes. It's usually me, your business manager, and the superintendent just sort of sitting there twiddling our thumbs as we wait for the bids. But anybody is welcome to come. If you just want to see how the process works, you're just interested in it, you know, whatever the case is, you could come at 1 o'clock. And then later that day at the regular board meeting is when we'd be doing just what we're doing now, except right now we're looking at lots of estimates and guesses. On that day, we're going to know the real numbers, right? We have the actual best bid, and we can calculate everything much more accurately. So we'd be presenting that information to you, to the board, that you'd presumably be accepting the lowest bid, the best bid. You'd also be passing a simple little resolution that says that you're actually going to pay off the portion of those old bonds that needs to be paid off. It's not all of them. It's just a portion of them, the amount that's needed to get that number in that far right column down below 1.25. And then you do more legal paperwork, the boring stuff, on June 30th. And then in this case, actually June 30th is when the bond would close, on June 11th is when you do the boring paperwork. The money would come to you on June 30th, you'd invest it, put it in the bank, and start spending it as you continue to get more construction payments, or construction bills. And then the last page in there, I just copied the resolution. So before we go to that page, or to the actual resolution, I'm going to stop talking, luckily, for a few minutes and see if the rest of this discussion here has had any, brought up any questions from board members before we go to the resolution. So any of the worksheets I talked about, the big picture, the hypotheticals, things we're assuming, the process, any questions you guys have at all?
Hey, Matt, this is David Farmer, treasurer for the district. And
Yep.
I'm prefacing, I know my answer, but can you clearly state for anyone listening to the recording later on, can saved dollars be used for any sort of operations or general fund activity?
No, they cannot. Sales tax dollars can only be used for what we call infrastructure. Infrastructure does include technology. So a school can use it for laptop computers, one-to-one laptops. But most of the time it's for bond repayment or cash payments to do those types of things. Like I said, fixing the roof, replacing the roof, tuck pointing buildings. You could be paying cash, and you have done that in the past to some degree. You have paid cash at times to do some major projects. It's just that your projects currently are so big, you don't generate enough cash quickly enough to pay cash. But again, replacing sidewalks, fixing windows, all of those types of things, secure and safe entrances, but not for general fund. No, sales tax cannot be used to pay teachers, cannot be used to pay administrators, can't be used for management fund purposes, etc. It's only infrastructure type things like Apple.
And that's set in state code.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, thank you very much, Matt, for your
Yep.
presentation again. It's always nice hearing your voice and your explanations. So thanks again for taking your time to explain these things to us. Thank you very much.
Yes, so, yep, you bet. Thank you, Mr. Castro. We're going to go to the last page, though, of the presentation, because that is the resolution. And just real quickly, I'll explain to you what these are. You've approved these, many, many times over the years because it's the same process every time. But there's three things that are part of this one resolution. One is you're fixing the date of the sale. So you're basically just saying, hey, we are announcing that the bond sale is going to take place on May 28th. The other one is approving the electronic bidding procedures. So that is using a site that's called Parity. That is the site that we've been using here in Iowa for over 25 years, actually right about 25 years. So it's kind of like eBay, but it's really nothing like eBay. You can't see the bids. You can see the bids coming in, but you can't see what the bids are, and that's intentional. But it's a way that all these different big banks and big brokerage firms can bid on the bonds electronically. It sort of takes out, not that errors can't be made, because there's always some opportunity for errors to be made, but it takes out lots of the opportunity for errors to be made. It also allows people to be bidding literally at the last second, whereas in the old way we did things, they had to talk to me. I would be physically at the school district on the day of the sale, and I would be on a telephone, and only one person could talk to me at a time. So if these bidders were waiting until the last minute, which they very frequently are doing, we often don't have any bids when there's 1 minute left. That's very common. But then we all of a sudden get 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 bids that come in within seconds. But if they had to all be talking to me to give me their bids, some of them would lose out. There's just not logistically enough time to tell me their bids. So this takes that out of there too, the electronic bids. You've used it many times before. And then approving the official statement, that's the POS document, preliminary official statement. That's the offering document that I believe we sent you, I think on Monday. So that's been already reviewed by your administration. It's been reviewed by your attorney. It's been reviewed by our attorney. It's been reviewed by me. And the board has to be just saying that it's acceptable. It does not contain any material errors, meaning not any intentional lies or misstatements of fact. There could be some typographical errors in there. I hope not, but there certainly could be. We're not concerned with those. This is if there's something that is actually misstating a fact. That's what you would be concerned with. Or if there was non-public information in there. Again, those things are very rare. They're not going to be in there. So this is just kind of going through the motion to say, yes, that document that has been reviewed by everybody, we can direct Piper Sandler to use that document to go out and solicit the bids. So all 3 of those things are wrapped up in this one resolution. So either you can ask questions about that if you like, or somebody can just so move the resolution fixing the date of sale, approving electronic bidding procedures, and approving the official statement. Someone can so move that right now and second the motion and then take a vote. Or if you have questions about it before that, feel free to ask questions.
I thought we already did that.
We did, yeah. I think we've already done that, Matt. So.
Oh, did you actually vote? I didn't hear you actually vote. Did you?
We're just going to check to see if there's any final discussion. Any other questions from anyone else? Any further discussion?
Just tell Matt, we did the motion when we were trying to get him on.
Okay, Dr. Morris just wanted me to remind you that we did the motion while we were waiting for you to come on.
Yep, sounds good. Okay, well, good night. Have a good night for the rest of your meeting. If you do have questions at any time, as you know, you're always welcome to call me, send me an email. I will respond back to you, but I will also respond through your administrators. But you can definitely ask questions. If your citizens ask questions, absolutely pass those questions on to me, because we do not want there to be misinformation. I say that nicely, misinformation, which equates to lies and intentional misinformation. We don't want that to be in any community. So if you have questions from citizens that you don't know the answer to, or you're unsure about the answer, absolutely pass those on to me. We'll get those answered. Otherwise, good luck, and we'll talk to you guys again on the day of the bond sale. So have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you.
Yep.
Anything
Bye.
else, Tyler or Dr. Morris?
No, if you need to contact me, to contact Matt, I can be a pastor as well.
Great. Okay, I think we're ready for a roll call.
Director Larkin,
Yes.
Director McGivern. I'm sorry. Director Witter. Yes. Director Brutti.
Yes.
Director Castro.
Yes.
Director Ingalls.
Yes.
Director Hansen.
Yes.
Motion carried 6.0.1.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to agenda item 6.4, revision of board policy 704.04, second and final reading. Is there a motion?
I move we approve 7.704.04 as presented.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion?
There's no discussion, but it is.
Oh, right, final. Okay. Roll call, please.
Director Witter. Yes. Director Brutti.
Yes.
Director Castro.
Yes.
Director Ingalls.
Yes.
Director Hansen.
Yes.
Director Larkin.
Yes.
Motion carries 6.0.1.
Thank you. Brings us agenda item 6.5, first read of the policy. Dr. Morris, you want to do any explanation regarding this?
Yeah, some HR policies, I had to step out for a minute, really related around FMLA. There's a summary up there, no massive changes or major changes, just getting back in alignment with what has changed in terms of IASB. And a couple of them are just reapprovals, nothing needed to be changed. So we'll bring these back in to the May 14th meeting. In the meantime, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Anything else? Okay, moving on to 6.7, communication, board shared communications and board reflections. Who would like to start it off?
I'll start off this evening. I had the pleasure of attending the Students First banquet last week. It was an amazing program, seeing the accomplishments of many young students, thriving students, listening to their stories, their personal stories, and what they've achieved and what they're looking forward to in the future. So it was a great, great program, and it's great to see everyone there. And also was able to make it to high school finally with Ms. Birdie, Dr. Birdie, and the industrial area, industrial arts, and that very impressive. It was very. I was forward to see all the new machines, computers, all the the welding program, and it is overall impressive. I wish I would have, or we would have had more time to circle around the rest of the building and maybe see other teachers, support staff, and that. Hopefully, we'll get to the school again here for the year end. So, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, I have a recommendation for the newer board members to be sure you're scheduling regular phone calls with the superintendent. Maybe if you're not doing that, you're missing opportunities to forward policy, to get feedback on things that are said at the microphone, other things of interest, and get a healthy back and forth that is just sometimes harder on email if you can be solved over a regular scheduled phone call. So if you're not doing that, recommend it on the calendar to do that.
Anyone else? Board shared communication, Director McGivern, you have anything you want to add?
Nope. Apologize, I had to step out for a second, but back now. I just, as always, appreciate all the work that's being done throughout our district. And I know, like I said before, the weather's getting nicer. I'm sure both staff and kids are getting antsy to get out there and enjoy as we're getting closer and closer to summer. But hopefully everybody stays locked in and finish out the school year strong. So thank you, everybody, for being here.
I have something. So I appreciate all the invitations that we get to different meetings, activities, things of that sort. I was wondering how we could be more succinct with all of those people that reach out to us to join in different meetings and things like that. If that could maybe work through your executive secretary or executive assistant, that then could filter to us. And then, right now, nobody knows who's going, who's not going, or should we send a letter to say, thank you for the invitation, we are not able to attend. We get these invitations and they kind of can probably feel, for whoever is sending them to us, that they're kind of going by the wayside. Sometimes we can come, sometimes we can't. I've had community members, say, well, you should have went to this, you should have went to that. I'm like, okay, you realize that all of us do have full-time jobs, that we are, busy. And so, but we want to take time, we want to acknowledge all the great things that are going on. So I just wondered if there was a better way to be able to acknowledge, know who's going, who's not going, if that could maybe be funneled through your administrative assistant.
So up until recently, until this shift in November, buildings would always send their invitations to, at the time, Christy Henson, my former executive assistant. We would then put it in that weekly communication. Now, we would ask for RSVPs. Sometimes there
I would get them, sometimes we wouldn't. I also get, you got full-time jobs, you've got families, you're running around doing other things too. That way we would know who was going and we could let the building stuff. So we, up until recently, that is what our protocol has been. I've seen an uptick in buildings directly inviting you all to events. And so I just left that be because I hadn't heard otherwise. I reminded principals that probably a singular point of communication would feel less, I don't know the right word, maybe frenetic, right? And so if that's what you want, we have a communication with our building administrators that goes out on a weekly basis. We will remind them. The board's request has been that those invitations funnel through our office. We'll put that in your weekly communication. You also see I update that calendar in that communication, so you have a quick glance and then you have more detail about the event. But that has been for 5.5 years my practice. And since December, I think I've seen an uptick in the buildings reaching out individually and inviting you guys. So if that is the will of the board, I am happy to remind our building leaders to send those invitations to Doug and myself. We'll make sure we do it through that. And then if you RSVP to us, I can work with Doug as he's learning to then maybe just weekly get an update about who said yes to who's going.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you bringing the feedback to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Engels or Director Brody. Anything else?
Just want to say I appreciate all the teachers as we're coming to the end here. I'm actually out before Bettendorf, but coming soon, and appreciate the hard work that you guys are doing. It gets tough at the end because the kids are ready to be done too.
Okay, just finishing up, I had the pleasure of attending the Wayne Sheremy Award ceremonies at middle school last Friday. Director Engels and I were there. Great kids, great accomplishments. Outstanding. It's great to see the parents there as well with the kids. And right in front of where Director Engels and I were sitting was probably a 2- and 4-year-old. During that whole ceremony, they were the best behaved 2 and 4 years old I have ever seen. I made it a point to tell the grandma, I believe, that I've never seen 2 kids so well behaved, sit so long, so quietly in all my life. Well, as long as they had a donut to start off with, I think they were all good. But it was a wonderful deal. And secondly, we give a former graduate comes back and gives a legacy scholarship, $5,000 a year for 4 years, so it's a $20,000 scholarship. And this year, as I mentioned before, I think last time we had 36 applicants. Took a lot of time, 3 days to read through all their bios and the counselor's letters of recommendation, their own personal bios, the 500-word or less summary. And fortunately or unfortunately, there was a tie in who was going to receive the legacy scholarship. So in that case, it was decided that we should go search our community for some input on helping us develop and give another legacy scholarship. So fortunately, we were able to put together another $5,000 per year, $20,000 total scholarship to the other person that tied for first place. So there will be 2 legacy scholarships given on May 6th, I believe, in the back. So that was a wonderful deal. Okay, that moves us to 8.1, upcoming calendar events. You can see them all there. Yeah, Director Ryan was going to punch me out if I didn't, so I remembered. So you see graduation coming up. We haven't decided on the time yet. That will be at the Verizon.
Isn't there one on the virtual one that was in front of the fax?
Yeah, but I didn't add it to this because by the time I had to post this, I have not heard from everybody, so I don't know if I have a quorum.
Did, thank you.
No, thank you for bringing it up.
Sure. Okay, that brings us to a series of closed sessions. Does the board feel they need a 5-minute? Okay. Item number 9, closed session, technology infrastructure. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
Yep. I'll move that the board make motion to move into closed session in accordance with Iowa Code 2151K of the Open Meetings Law to discuss information contained in records in the custody of a governmental body that are confidential records pursuant to Iowa Code 22.750.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Director Woodard.
Yes.
Director Ruti. Yes. Director Castro.
Yes.
Director Ingalls. Yes. Director Hansen.
Yes.
Director Larkin.
Yes.
Director McGivern.
Yes.